Hi and welcome again to this edition of Mr. F's bite-sized video on using PNG files in our digital pages. This week I want to be quite clear and we're going to look at transparency. Poor joke, I know. Poor start to the day. Right, on the screen you'll see that we have our two yellow flowers that we used last time to look at shadows, and this time we're going to use them to look at transparency. Now obviously, because we're going to be looking through these flowers, we need first of all to insert some sort of background so we can actually see the effects that we're achieving. So to do that we go again to insert, pictures, picture from file, and I found some music paper earlier on Pixabay. I just searched for music sheets and it came up with various images. This one's a JPEG and we're just going to insert that onto our page. And there we go. Now, as you can see now, it looks like our two PNGs, which as we now know is a fussy cut version of a JPEG, so it has no background. It just looks like those two flowers are sitting on that music sheet. What we're going to do is to make one of them on the right, we're going to add some transparency to it, and we're going to leave the other one on the left as is, so we can compare the difference. So we select the flower on the right, and as you can see, it puts the selection box around it. And the next thing we need to do is go up onto the top right of the menu bar, and it says Format pane. So we need to click that, and it'll open up a new pane for us that we can get to our options. Across the top, where it says Format Picture, now you have 4 different tabs, and we want the far right one, which is the thing that looks like a mountain, which basically looks like a picture. So we select that one, and you'll see then we have some options, and the third one down is picture transparency. So now we have a sliding scale of 1 to 100, and if we move that along from 0, which is 0 transparency, as in fully opaque so we can't see through it, and if we slide that across, you'll see that the flower on the right slowly dissolves away until we can actually see through the flower and pick up on the paper behind. And I'll zoom in on that now so you can see, view, zoom, 200%, and there you can now see the two next to each other, the fully opaque one on the left and the one that we've turned now down to 40% transparency, and you can clearly see that music paper through it, and it's a very nice effect. So now, rather than it looking like the flowers sitting on top of the paper, it looks like we've either watercoloured that directly onto the paper, or we've done a decoupage with tissue paper, and we'd get that same effect. And it's actually, rather than sitting on top, it's melded the two together almost, so it looks really like that flower is part of that music sheet, and it's a beautiful effect, as we know from when we decoupage using tissues or we do a watercolour picture. So now we can, let me zoom out. No, in fact actually I think that's pretty much it for transparency on that one. So what we'll do again, we'll change our document, bring back the lace roses, and as you already know by now, that lace background is from TaylorMade Journals on Etsy. It's the Vintage Lace Paper Set 1, and the flowers are from TaylorMade Journals Rose Garden PNG kit. So there's some ready-made nice flower PNGs there on TaylorMade Journals, well worth a visit. What we shall do is, again, we shall leave the left one as is, and as you can see, it looks like both of those are sitting above the lace. If we select the right hand one again and go back to the same sort of settings, let's get rid of that one, and there we go, picture transparency again, which is under the picture image right hand one of the top 4, and then we can apply some transparency, and what we'll do again I think is zoom in on that. 200% seemed to work for us well last time. There we go. Let's see that one, and hopefully you'll see that flower will fade away and merge itself into the background beautifully, and we'll start to see some of that lace pattern come through the flower as we take up the transparency. There we go. You can see it coming through now. That's 30%, that's 43%. And as you can see, as we go closer and closer, that flower fades away, and then we really start to see the lace pattern come through it. 60% would bring the flower back up a little, because I think 60% of transparency is too much. That's the same 40%. We can even have a little more zoom, I think. Now we'll go 500%. Ooh, that's a lot, isn't it? There we go. And we'll just move that along, bring up that flower so you can see, and there you can really see that lacy pattern, that lacy texture is coming through that flower, and it really looks like that flower has been either painted onto that lace or decoupaged onto that lace. Let's go back out and zoom out a little. 100%. And there you go. That's the effect in 100%, and that's what you can see the difference between the two. The one on the left really looks like it's standing above the lace. The one on the right really looks like it's sunk into the lace, and you can see some of that lacy texture flowing through. Obviously you can take it back so you got more of the flower and less of the lace, or you can take it all the way across until that flower is almost disappeared, almost like it's a ghost of its former self on top of that lace. So you can play until you get just the right effect that you want to achieve, and I think that is really a lovely thing to do on your digital papers. Now we can zoom out a bit again, I think back to 100%. Now the other thing to bear in mind, of course, is that's the transparency on the image, but there's no reason that we can't play with the transparency on the background. So if we select that lacy background, and we'll leave the image on the left as is, we've now selected the lacy background, and we can play with that, and if we turn the transparency down on that, you'll see that it starts going fading away, and it itself sinks into the paper underneath almost. So now if you view, we'll zoom in again to 200%, you'll see that lace now has gone from being lace on top of paper to almost being an embossed laced pattern on the paper. And if we take the transparency down again, you'll see that it really does sort of fade away, so you can almost pick the level of embossing that you want. So now that really is a totally different image from what we started with, purely by playing with the transparency of the images and the background. And there we go. I think that really does demonstrate the beauty of being able to change the transparency of our images. So that's it for today. Hopefully that was clear enough to follow. If you've got any questions, you can join me and others on Miss Paint-A-Lot's Junk Journal group on Facebook, and any questions we'll be gladly answer, or you can comment on this video below and we'll get back to you and hopefully sort you out. Thank you very much for joining me. Join me again soon for another bite-sized Mr. F. Bye for now.